Chapter 8, Curriculum Implementation. Many plan to develop curricula are not implemented because the plan to incorporate them into the school's educational program does not exist. John Wells and Joseph Bondi note that more than 90% of new curricula fail to be implemented. In their view, educators lack the managerial skills and knowledge necessary to deliver a new curriculum. Implementing the curriculum is the most crucial and sometimes the most difficult phase of the curriculum development process. Chapter 8 will discuss what it means to implement a curriculum successfully. Remember, this is only a chapter overview. It is not in any way a substitute for reading the chapter in its entirety. Feel free to rewind and pause as needed. The nature of implementation. Implementation became a major educational concern beginning around 1980. Millions of dollars were being spent to develop curriculum projects, especially for reading and mathematics, yet many of the projects did not succeed. Seymour Saracen notes two kinds of basic understanding essential to implementation. The first is an understanding of organizational change and how information and ideas fit into a real-world context. The second is an understanding of the relationship between curricula and the social institutional context into which they are to be introduced. Successful curriculum implementation results from careful planning, which focuses on three factors: people, programs, and processes. To implement a curriculum change, educators must get people to change some of their habits and possibly views. Implementation of a new curriculum must be tailored to the school. Each school is unique with its own culture. There are various issues to consider when implementing a new curriculum. For instance, incrementalism. The curriculum should be introduced slowly and with a specific purpose in mind, not just for the sake of saying you are changing the curriculum. All parties involved should understand why this change is necessary. Communication. To ensure adequate communication, a curriculum specialist must understand a school's or school system's communication channels. Communication may be formal and informal, horizontal or vertical, on screen, on paper, and in person. Support. Support. To facilitate implementation, curriculum designers must provide the necessary support for their recommended curricular innovations or modifications. If the new curriculum is to enable improvement in student learning, it must be maintained and supported over time through in-service training or staff development. In-service training or staff development is necessary for teachers who lack a deep understanding of curriculum and its creation. Implementation as a change process. The purpose of curriculum development, regardless of level, is to make a difference, to enable students to attain the school, the societies, and perhaps most importantly, their all aims and goals. Implementation, an essential part of curriculum development, brings into reality anticipated changes. Simply put, curriculum activity is change activity. According to research, for curriculum change to be successfully implemented, 5 guidelines should be followed. First, innovations designed to improve student achievement must be technically sound. Changes should reflect research findings regarding what does and does not work, not designs that simply are popular. Number 2, successful innovation requires change in the structure of a traditional school. The way students and teachers are assigned to classes and interact with each other must be significantly modified. 3, innovation must be manageable and feasible for the average teacher. For example, one cannot innovate ideas concerning critical thinking or problem solving when students cannot read or write basic English. 4, Implementation of successful change efforts must be organic rather than bureaucratic. A bureaucratic approach of strict rules and monitoring is not conducive to change. Such an approach should be replaced with an organic and adaptive approach that permits one deviation from the original plan and recognizes grassroots problems and the school's conditions. 5. Avoid the do something, anything syndrome. A definite curriculum plan is needed to focus time, efforts, and money on sound, rational content and activities. The data indicated in the guidelines are systematically interrelated, and that with the possible exception of the guideline regarding structural change, then apply equally to all levels of education. Types of change. First, plan change. Those involved have equal power. They identify and follow precise procedures for dealing with the activity at hand. Plan change is the ideal. Coercion. One group determines the goals, retains control, and excludes the other people from participating. Interaction change. There is a fairly equal distribution of power among groups who mutually set goals. However, few procedures are carefully developed. Also, those involved may lack deliberateness and be uncertain as to how they should implement the desired changes. And lastly, random change. Random change. Such change occurs with no apparent thought and no goal setting. Random change is common in schools, as when curricula are modified in response to an unanticipated event, such as new legislation or pressure from special interest groups. Although change that occurs in schools cannot be fit into precise categories, curriculars must realize that types do exist and that planned change is the ideal. However, change is not synonymous with improvement. Education is a normative activity. A person's advocating and then managing change means, in effect, making a statement about what he or she thinks is valuable. Resistance to change. There are many reasons that people resist change. A successful curriculus must be sensitive to these reasons and understand the barriers that people place around themselves in an attempt to maintain the status quo. Resistance to change can benefit change agents by requiring them to think carefully about proposed innovations, consider the human dynamics involved in implementing programs, and avoid advocating change for its own sake in order to allow some educational fad. Stages of change. Curriculum change has essentially three stages: initiation, implementation, and maintenance. Initiation of change sets the stage for implementation. Implementation of change involves presenting innovation and getting people to try it out in their classrooms or other appropriate educational spaces. Maintenance is the monitoring of the innovation after it has been introduced. Maintenance refers to those actions required for the continuation of the innovation. Some curriculum implementation models include overcoming resistance to change model, organizational development model, and the systems model. An overview of the curriculum development models is mentioned in your text. People involved in curriculum implementation can include students, teachers, administrators, consultants, state employees, university professors, parents, lay teachers, and political officials interested in education. Depending on their skills, such people play different roles at different times in the change process. Chapter 8 Conclusion. Curriculum implementation is much more than handing out new materials and courses of study. For implementation to succeed, those involved must understand the program's purpose, the roles people play within the system, and the types of individuals who are to be affected by interaction with the new curriculum. Effective implementation does not occur without serious planning. The change process demands planning, but planning with flexibility so as to address unintended circumstances and events. As events arise, procedures must be fine-tuned. Curriculars can bring various perspectives to implementation and employ numerous strategies. Successful implementation requires a community of trust. Those in charge of change strategies must understand the relationship of change to planning and the dynamics of group processes. We have reached the end of your Chapter 8 review. Be sure that you have reviewed and understand all of the concepts of the chapter. Remember, any of these topics could be seen on your final exam.